about forces in motion. This is going to be an interactive online lesson. I'm sorry that you guys can't be here in class with me today in person, but it will still be interactive and it's going to be really fun. So do not worry. So to begin today, I want to begin with a quick brainstorm. So if you could all open up this Google Jamboard link, it's hyperlinked right here, and I will also type it in the chat for you to access. And the question down here at the bottom is what I'm going to be asking you. So I'm going to be asking you to brainstorm how many forces you can think of that exist on planet Earth. So if you click right on this link, and again, it is posted in our chat here today. Did you guys access this okay?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, excellent. So if you go, okay, great. So it looks like you guys might already know how to do this, but if you go on this panel on the left and you go to this icon, 4 icons down, you will be able to add a sticky note with any forces that you can think of. So I'm going to set a timer for about a minute. Try to think of as many as you can, and then we will come back to discuss. I've started you off here with magnetism. So try to think of other forces besides magnetism. Gravity is a great one. Remember the difference between forces and elements on the planet?
Oh, yeah.
That's okay. I like the brainstorm. Good. Yes. Pull. I like that one. Good. These are awesome.
Motion.
Is fire a force?
So fire and wind are not exactly forces. Wind in particular, though, can cause things to kind of, blow over. It can kind of cause a push or pull effect, but in itself, wind and fire are classified as elements. They're not necessarily forces. But the rest of these are really great. So we have gravity, right? Gravity is what keeps us grounded. It's allowing all of us to sit in our chairs right now instead of floating up to the ceiling. We have drag. Drag is what kind of pushes up against objects as they fall through the air. Push and pull, both of those are very basic forces, absolutely. And then in the bottom left corner down here, ding, 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 we have a winner. Who put friction? Excellent, Bay. Yeah, so friction is actually going to be what we will be talking about today. So friction is a really, really important force on our planet, and it's going to be the main focus of this lesson today. All of the other forces that you guys listed that were indeed forces, we will be covering at other points throughout the semester, but today in particular, we will be talking about friction. So what is friction? It's essentially a force that opposes motion. So a force that opposes motion. What does that mean?
It slows things down.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So it kind of goes against a forward motion. Absolutely. Good, Dylan. So basically, when an object's moving, friction is going to be what causes it to slow down or stop. An object at rest, it's going to be what actually keeps the object at rest. So Sophie, I see you might be in your room. What is an object that you see in front of you that's stationary, that's at rest?
My computer.
Your computer. All right, great. So your computer, it's an inanimate object. It's just sitting there, and yet it has all sorts of forces acting on it. So it's got gravity pulling it down. It's got a force from Earth's surface pushing it back up. And it also has static friction acting on it that's keeping it still. So objects at rest, it's going to keep them from moving. Without friction, they would actually just be sliding all over the place, which we'll look at in a second. And then something important to know is that friction is caused by rough or uneven surfaces. What's an example of a rough or uneven surface?
Like the road, so a car doesn't slip off it?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only the road, but think about your tires. Are your tires completely smooth?
No.
No, right? They kind of have treads, they have grooves. Exactly. That's a great example. What else?
The first thing that came to mind was like my nail file that's like uneven.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great one. Yeah, it's kind of like that gross sandpapery material. Absolutely. Dylan, did you have one?
Like the grip tape on a skateboard.
Yeah, totally. I don't know much about skateboarding, but I'm going to assume that you're the expert on that and we'll go with it. Excellent. So I have two images down here. First, this one on the bottom here. It's kind of like looks like this slimy substance. This is a zoomed in image of a very common substance. What do you got? Does anyone have a guess as to what this is?
Grass?
It's not grass. That's a really good guess.
Maybe
Styrofoam.
What was that?
Styrofoam.
It's not styrofoam. So this is actually salt. So it looks a little different zoomed in, right? Kind of taking that closer, different perspective to look at it. What about this one?
Like
This
a
one on the
sponge.
right here.
A sponge.
Not a sponge. Good guess.
Hairs?
Kind of. What this is it's a piece of paper. So paper is actually made up of kind of overlapping, intertwining fibers. So what this shows is that even surfaces that feel really smooth or that are really tiny, actually, when you zoom in super close on them, they do have a rough, uneven surface, which is what allows friction to act on all of these objects. So kind of cool to look at these close up. I definitely wouldn't have pictured salt looking like this. So before we delve into a little more detail about why friction is so important on our planet, I want us to imagine what a world without friction would look like. So this is a 4-minute video. We're just going to watch the first minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Rick was born in 2014. He was diagnosed at.
Can you hear it? Okay.
Can you make
Excellent.
it full screen though, or is it gonna?
Yep. Yep. All right, here we go.
Everyone would surely die. We'll come back to that, but first, friction may not seem that important, but without it, our world would nearly come to a halt. We wouldn't be able to write. The lack of friction would keep any ink or graphite from coming off on the page. We wouldn't be able to use matches to start fires, and we surely wouldn't be able to pick them up. But things get much worse from here. We wouldn't be able to walk, but we would also be able to move for very long periods of time over long distances due to the lack of friction slowing us down. We owe our ability to walk almost entirely to the friction between the soles of our shoes and the ground. And without it, we might look like a video game character experiencing some lag. If we were able to find something to push off of, we could move almost indefinitely until we ran into something.
So kind of crazy to think about. Even something as basic as walking, as pushing up from the ground, actually requires friction. So without it, it'd kind of be like just walking in place or walking on a treadmill. We wouldn't actually be able to go anywhere.
That means you could stand on a highway, push off from your car, and just keep moving and accelerating as long as you'd like. But good luck stopping. Stopping yourself from moving would likely involve smashing into something really hard. Not only would there be a lack of friction between surfaces, there would also be a lack of air resistance due to the loss of molecular friction. If you pushed off of something with a small acceleration, you would continue accelerating until you hit something. Stopping yourself would be easy compared to stopping other objects like cars. Engines in cars would work, but brakes wouldn't work. So if we wanted to drive anywhere, we would have to plan on getting in an accident every time we wanted to park. None of that matters, however, because you couldn't even drive. Say goodbye to any sort of traction between your tires and the ground. Your car's engine could theoretically still work, and it would likely still turn your car's wheels, but that's about the extent of it. So when friction stops working, you'll be stuck wherever you are, unable to pick up anything and start your car, but you could move endlessly with a small push, which means traveling across the world with almost no energy. That doesn't sound too bad, but it gets much, much worse.
All right, so we'll stop it there. So again, something as simple as walking or even driving, you wouldn't even be able to come to a stop. So if you were stationary and someone gave you a push, you would just keep sliding forever. Friction is the force that actually allows you to come to a stop. So when is friction helpful in our lives? So I want to kind of think a little deeper about this. Think about, examples. Think about when we might use rough materials or examples in sports, maybe where friction might be beneficial. Think about maybe when we drive our cars. Can you guys think of any examples where friction is kind of a positive force on our planet, or anything that was just covered in the video?
The leather on like a football or basketball so you can catch it easier.
Yeah, that gives it more grip, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Good example. Sophie, you brought up the idea of the nail file earlier. That's kind of an example of using a high friction material in our everyday lives.
Right. And I was thinking also like with cooking, like maybe, I don't know, like grill marks on a grill, like you need the surface, the different types of surfaces and friction.
Good. Yeah. And we'll talk about a little more cooking actually on the next slide, I believe. Yeah. Good. What about when we're driving? What kind of surface do we want the roads to be? What happens in the winter?
You put salt and
Oh.
sand, so you don't go nice.
You put salt and sand down. Yeah. So in the winter, when the roads get really icy, we put down salt and sand to increase the friction of the road. Yeah. So in all of these examples, friction is really beneficial. Similarly, when you light a match, right, when you strike a stick against that sandpapery material, it generates enough heat to create a flame. What is this image in the bottom left here? What is this showing? Has anyone seen this before?
Chalk on a gymnast's hands.
Yeah, what does that do, Dylan?
Improves their grip.
Yeah, absolutely. So that chalk kind of it kind of reduces, like, I guess maybe sweating on your hand, kind of increases your grip. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's really important in gymnastics. We've got Bay's example here, sand and ice or sand and salt going down on the road. Even just braking a car without friction, again, from the video, we wouldn't even be able to brake our cars. And last but not least, something as simple as holding a pencil, we wouldn't actually be able to grip anything without the force of friction. And so there are situations though where we might want to reduce the friction between two surfaces. And the way that we can do this is by either using a smoother surface, right? What kinds of materials generate more friction, Bay?
Rough materials.
Rough materials, yeah. So if we wanted to reduce friction, we might use smoother materials, or we might add some sort of lubricant. So let's think about like on a slip and slide. What do you want to add to a slip and slide?
Soap.
Soap, yeah. And what else?
Water.
Oil.
Water. Yeah, you don't want to go down a slip and slide completely dry. You'd get rug burns all over your body, right? You want to add soap to reduce that friction. Other examples of lubricants, we have grease, we have oil. And what about, Bay? I know you're a really good cook. What might you add to a pan that would reduce friction?
Butter.
Butter. Yeah, absolutely, right? Good. Yes. So even though friction's a really important force on our planet, there are situations where we might want to reduce the force of friction between two surfaces. So last but not least, you guys, I have made this slide so that you can actually edit it. And I want to just kind of apply all of these concepts that we talked about today. So when is friction a hero? In other words, when do we really want friction in our lives? And when is it a villain? In other words, when might we want to actually reduce it? What kind of activities would we want reduced friction for? So I want you all to try to add at least 2 bullet points to the slide. If you click on the boxes, you should be able to go ahead and edit it collectively. And this is kind of to summarize everything we talked about, draw in all of these concepts from the video, from our discussions, all of the ideas you guys have proposed. And we'll take about a minute or so to get this slide filled out.
Do you know how to edit the slide?
Will it not let you edit it?
Oh, I just drew on it.
Oh, that's okay. Perhaps if I type the link to this as well in the chat, does that work?
Oh yeah, that works.
Okay.
Perfect.
So let me know if there's any more trouble. Is there still trouble editing this?
Yeah.
Maybe because it's view only, maybe you can allow us to edit it.
It should be, oh, yep, there you go. Sorry, I had it as editor. Okay, try now. 3rd time's the charm.
Oh yeah, it's good now.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Anonymous chipmunk, it comes up as. These are looking really good so far. Wax on a surfboard, I like that one a lot. I'm not a very good surfer myself, but I know that when there's not a lot of wax on that board, it's even more difficult than when there is. I really can't do it either way, but you definitely want some wax on that board. All right, great. So I want you to all kind of continue to think about these ideas. We are running short on time today, but keep thinking about, when is friction kind of a good thing in our lives? And honestly, we really wouldn't be able to survive on this planet without it. It's really important to remember that. But there are kind of ways around it. There are ways that we can reduce friction through various lubricants, butter, soap, oils, stuff like that. So we're out of time today, but this link on this last slide here is a link to a really great online